Hey guys, this is Ryan from Shatter Brain. You're watching Loud TV.
So there's a fantastic new album. It's gonna be out in a few days, I think.
Yeah, tomorrow our time. So Friday, 1st of May.
So I've heard that the band was created on the ashes of a band called the Kraken, right?
Yes. You heard correctly. Yeah, so we actually myself and the rhythm guitarist, Matt DeSisto, started that in I'd say probably about 2013 or 14 or something. And his previous band had kind of fallen apart, so he was just looking for something to jam on. We both liked stoner rock and sludge, like Mastodon, Clutch, that kind of thing. And so we were keen to just jam on some stuff like that, and the Kraken sort of came out of that. And we did an EP, got a band together, did an EP. It was all just fun. But then when Matt and I decided that we wanted to do a band together and take it a little bit more seriously, we didn't want to be sort of pigeonholed into what we'd done in the Kraken, that more jammy kind of thing. We're both more into sort of thrash and death metal, as well as those other influences. So we kind of repurposed the Kraken into what's now Shatter Brain.
Yeah, it's very much inspired by old thrash metal, but with also new elements, right?
Yeah. So we came out in January 2018 as Shatter Brain. And we had a demo that we released straight away with 4 songs on it. And then in, I think it was July or August of 2018, we released the 12-inch split EP, which was a split vinyl release with Blunt Shovel, a Melbourne band. And yeah, we sort of started to find our sound a little bit on that record. The demo was very much leftover Kraken material, so I had more of that jammy stoner rock sludge kind of sound to it, whereas in the split EP, the 2 original songs we did on that started to get more of that thrash metal kind of influence. So yeah, I'd say thrash and hardcore and crossover is kind of our primary sound, but then we have a lot of sort of sludge, and that's those slower, grimier kind of sounds in there as well. And then our vocalist Tom, he can kind of do anything, so I think that adds a lot to the eclectic sound we've developed.
I've read that your influences are from Marauder, very good choice.
Yes,
to Power Trip, to Crowbar. So yeah, it's very, very large.
Yes, within the metal sort of subgenre, we cover quite a lot of them. So
what about this new album that you recorded in your hometown, right, Adelaide?
Yes. Yep. The whole album process was relatively long, I guess, considering that we still work day jobs and all that kind of thing. So you're sort of working after work and on weekends. We were jamming twice a week, and then also doing weekend sessions to try and write the songs, demo the songs, tweak them, rewrite them. But we probably did that for about 12 months, maybe a bit longer, before we hit the studio. Hit the studio in June of last year. That's when I did the drums. And then we finished the mixes in, I think, late July. And then we got the final mixes and the final masters back in late October. So it was, sort of 3 or 4 months of the whole recording and mixing through the mastering process. And then since then we were shopping it around to labels to try and find someone to help us put it out, both internationally and within Australia. And we're lucky enough to get in touch with Wormhole Death, who were really excited about it and who are putting it out.
Okay. So there is much better sound than on the EP, right?
I think so. Yeah, we stepped it up a little bit. Jack, our guitarist, he did the demo and the EP, and he did a great job. But we engaged some I guess the next level of your engineers and your mixing and mastering engineers on the album. And we also spent a lot more time refining in the recording process, so refining the sounds that we were going to lay down to tape and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely it's a very, I think it's a unique sounding record. It's we went with a local guy, Jimmy Balderston at Ghost Note Recording Studios. He's a drummer. He's drummed in a lot of great Adelaide bands, and so he knows how to pull a really big live drum sound, which was really important for me. And he was very much about the feel of the recording. You know, if it wasn't note perfect or every hit wasn't 100% perfect, he didn't care as long as there was that right vibe to the recording. And I think that comes through in the drums, in the guitars. It's got a very real feel to it, which we're really happy about.
So there is a fantastic artwork. I like very much.
That was great.
What about the title and it's the Pitchfork Justice?
I hadn't really seen it before. Our guitarist Jack kind of brought it up when we were talking about concepts around the album. The whole album's around the idea of political correctness and social justice, and especially in the age of social media. And one of the main things I guess we were influenced by was the idea of someone doing something that others perceive is wrong or inappropriate, and then a lot of people jumping on that bandwagon and condemning that person without getting the full story or without letting them tell their own story. So that idea of lynch mobs who carry their pitchforks, taking justice into their own hands. So that's where the title sort of came from, and the concept of the album. And then we got Steve Lehman on board, the artist that did the artwork for us. He's a bit of an Adelaide legend. He's old school thrash guy, loves Ed Repka, which comes through a lot in the artwork, I think. He does. There's a big local festival that he does all the artwork for. So we got him on board from the very start. He did the demo and the 12-inch split artwork as well. And we just sort of told him the concept of the album, what we were kind of thinking, how we wanted it to look, and he just ran with it. And we couldn't be happier. Yeah, so the first single was Talk in Fear, which I guess is the idea that maybe people are censoring themselves in a public forum because they're scared of how people will react, which I guess doesn't really allow people to expand their minds as much. So that idea of censorship and political correctness. And then throughout the album, we explore a lot of those different ideas. Pitchfork Justice being the title track, like I mentioned before, Choosing Beggars. People who, will ask for something, but then be very choosy about what they're happy to receive or what they're happy to hear. We also explore the idea of virtue signaling in that song as well. And then the idea of the noble savage. So whether we actually have developed as a society or as people, or whether, the savage version of ourselves was a more noble kind of version. So we don't want to go in and tell people how to live their lives or condemn anyone or preach to anyone, but these were just ideas that we wanted to explore on the album, and start a conversation or just give people something to think about. And then the last song on the album was Death Goes On, which is a bit of a bleak kind of song, but it basically says that, well, it doesn't really matter because we all die anyway. So it's kind of a neat little package, I think, the album.
So we were talking about Australia, that you have toured a lot, but you have toured also in Thailand with a Brazilian band Ratos de Porão.
Yeah.
You have toured with King Parrot, and of course maybe the highlight with Max and Igor from the previous band Sepultura, right?
Yeah. So we've been lucky. We've done a fair bit of international touring, which was always the intention of this band. Matt and myself, like I said before, started the band, and the whole intention was to create a band that just wanted to tour and be prolific with our songwriting and releasing. And so we've just been doing that from day one. We went over to New Zealand in the first couple of months of being a band, and we were over touring Taiwan and Southeast Asia with Ratos de Parao within 6 months of being a band. So, which, you know, we were lucky how that came together. But touring with Ratos was great. To be honest, I wasn't overly familiar with their material before that tour. But as soon as I dug into it, I just couldn't believe how lucky we were to be touring with such a great band, and such a seminal band as well in that kind of hardcore crossover scene. And yeah, then, you know, getting to share the stage with their brothers, basically, and Max and Igor Cavalera, that was incredible. Tom actually got to get up and sing a cover of Dirty Deeds by AC/DC with them, which was one of the sort of best moments, I think, in that I've had in being in bands. So yeah, it was awesome.
And what about, of course, a new tour? What do you want to go and to travel to?
We want to come and see you. That was, you know, that's the main thing. We've been on the hunt for an appropriate European tour since we first started. So it's been over 2 years now trying to make something happen. We've had a lot of close calls, but just hasn't come to fruition for one reason or another yet. So we were very, very close. We were this close to signing on the dotted line for one later in the year this year, but obviously that's not going to happen now. But hopefully, you know, early to mid 2021, hopefully we can get to Europe. That's our big goal, is coming to Europe. We think we do quite well there. Yeah, that's the plan. You know, get on one of those tours, jump in a van, follow the band around, and play one of the support slots for a bigger band. That's what we'd like to do. You know, reasonable sized club shows would be awesome. Yeah, we had a full tour lined up and booked, and unfortunately, because of all this, we've had to cancel it, which is a big shame. Luckily, we didn't have flights booked or anything, and there's lots of other bands that did have flights and accommodation booked for tours, and they've had to cancel it, and some of them haven't been reimbursed or refunded, which is a real shame. But yeah, we're hopefully early next year. I'm skeptical that we'll be allowed to leave the state or enter other states in 2020. But hopefully early next year we can rebook that Australian tour and go and see all our friends in Melbourne and Brisbane and all those kind of places. So yeah, really looking forward to getting over there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.